I'd asked about
It's my
looking at like how we pick what's a group A organization, group B. I mean, it's not on the agenda, and I never really got a response. I don't know if we want to try to talk about it today or just
Yeah,
talk
we can.
about it next month.
No, I think if we can address it today, and I think with our team, hopefully we can address that. If not, we'll get the answer. But I think that's something we because I think the attempt with the spreadsheet that was sent out, I believe late last week or early this week. I think there was an attempt trying to, but it was complex to say the least. And so I think we can address that today for sure. Yeah.
Well, there didn't seem, I mean, even if it's at superintendent's discretion, there seemed to be no guidance written down anywhere that I could find.
Excuse me, on group A or group B, is that what you're asking, how you define them?
Yeah.
So it's in the admin guideline that goes with the policy, and group A is the corporate, it's a profit, for profit. B is not for profit. So the admin guideline has a lot of information that is also in the Google form, and it has always been present when we use paper form as well. And it has all of that written out. And
so if we can pull that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I either didn't see it or it wasn't sufficient. I forget. It's been 7 months ago.
Yes. Do you want to dive into the policies then while they're getting that? Or okay. All right. So the first one we have in front of us, 6620 petty cash.
That's somebody requested a review on that. Now when I pull it up, it doesn't show. It's nearly the exact same that we had before, the old 5620. But the board member requested that be reviewed.
Do you see which board member on the spreadsheet?
I don't. That's not here today. And it could be a board member that's not here anymore too.
True.
So that's why it would be on that list.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the board on that one? Yeah.
Okay, we can take that one off.
All right. Next, we have 6680 recognition.
And that is also nearly the same as the previous one was 5680 back in the day. And somebody asked if, does this fund exist? We were told no.
So, but we do this, right? And this fund does exist.
We don't have petty cash, but we have cash boxes. Okay. So it works, yes.
We're on 5680. We're on 5680.
I'm sorry. I was doing that.
That's all right.
Sorry.
No. So it's still a finance fund, so you're good.
Yeah.
Can you tell me? I'm not logged
There you go.
I'm sorry.
You bet.
The recognition as far as like staff and
then Kim asked what fund.
Tokens, awards.
It doesn't give a specific fund. It just says there's a fund.
It's fund 300 right now because it is part of the central office portion that moved over to the operations when the law changed.
Karen, is it still limited by the ADM? So much.
That's marketing and promotion. So staff hasn't been limited, but we do try to limit it to a degree because we're trying to get every dollar in the classroom that we can. But the marketing piece is what has been capped at the per $1.
That's good.
In our recognition, we're pretty, so HR handles a lot of this, the recognitions, and we're pretty aware of that, and we do shop around a little bit when we go to do those.
And so, Mr. Scalf, I know that we're not here to discuss this today. However, in future attempts, the marketing cap is a local internal cap that we placed.
No, if there's a state statute that says promotion, can be $1 a kid. Now, what you label as promotion versus various other labels can be done different ways.
Gotcha.
And
the reason I'm reference to it because we had a presentation not long ago. It was Hazelmaker and Mr. Matthews, and I know that they stand ready to revisit after we've since reached out to a few marketing firms. And I know that the trend around the county, around the state, around the country is that school corporations are investing. I think we found that at the IASBO conference a few weeks ago, that they're investing in professional marketing firms and spending the extra money there to.
So I think what some of that has been is the $1 per student has been more like gifts and things like you would put together welcome packs or you would put together. It's not so much about like marketing, like
Billboards.
or like services. It's more about
We have
material.
a couple of billboards. We usually seem to have. I know one over there on this.
I appreciate that. Just so I wanted
And
to get that.
creative language on that is always part of it because it's not just, I mean, that $1 cap had been really hard to manage. And when you're looking at designing a plan for the district, that isn't exactly just promotion.
Right.
It includes a lot of things.
I just wanted to just have that clarity as we move into the second phase of the strategic plan,
most
some conversations for down the road.
Yeah, for most schools, I would say it's more about communication than it is anything else. So it's probably.
So I thought this policy though was talking about more.
It doesn't deal with marketing. That was just not such a bar kind of.
Okay.
This is just the recognition of staff. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So I'll take that one off. Then we don't need to.
Well, do we have any thoughts, comments on that?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
All right.
The last one, and this is actually the last one of tab 3 on that review spreadsheet that we had, and that's reporting accidents. And it's 8442, formerly 7442, reporting of accidents, and it's nearly the same as well. Some had a question about school nurses and principals not present in the building. I believe very seldom is the building without a nurse right now. I think that is pretty consistent, and that's the question that somebody had. So that was, and that is in that first paragraph that they're to report to the school nurse or the principal.
Great. All right. Any thoughts or comments on that one? All right. Seeing none, let's go ahead and move on to 8455 coach training references, IHSAA reporting.
These are all legislative updates again, and this one is from still working on the last March's update. And I believe we wanted to bring this back to this. I think we covered this earlier. But there are some options there that we can choose. Well, I guess we have not looked at this. So the options are there for you to look at starting on page 2.
So choosing what?
About halfway down, those are things that the board may include.
Like part D though, under a head coach or assistant coach.
No, the green is what they've added, and there's not an option there. Those are the changes that they've made.
Options are the following training is optional, and
right.
Then choose what we want to do. Got it.
Correct.
Yep. All right. Any thoughts on what we want to choose? If we want to make a recommendation that the board chooses.
I don't have any strong thoughts.
All right. What would the recommendation of cabinet be then? Sam, would that be you? We're all looking at you, Sam.
Thank you.
Sam,
I appreciate the attention.
Would you think option A would be the best?
A seems like it kind of just repeats what I read up at the top.
Right.
B is pretty, because that's B just covers everything to me. It's
Correct.
It's pretty succinct. Once every 2 years, that's what I've experienced. Is every 2 years you have to do these things. That's pretty much the law. So seems to me it would cover it. Because that's the part of how it says.
And then option C says other than football coaches should be required.
Right, because the very top of it in part A says specific to football, prior to coaching football to students. So football has its own section. That's what A is about. That's the way I'm interpreting it. So I'm wrong on that. That's why later on they take football out, but add the others. And that'd be more like an attorney kind of thing. What's the difference? I don't notice any. Because D pretty much covers everything. Marching band, music, then said right after the rest, all that conversation. So
Yes, Mr. Richard, I apologize. So that motion is D.
We don't have to have a
No.
recommendation at all. We don't have to include any of the options.
yeah, additionally, the board requires that the appointed training has an option. Choose the options if the board wishes to include in the policy, right? John's right. We wouldn't have to. Because it seems like those things are covered in the other part of it. That's just where I'm seeing it.
So it sounds like you're thinking don't choose one of the options would be your recommendation.
You wouldn't have to, or I would just check B, because B is the shortest and it just covers the three things that are related by law. So it's up to you. I mean,
All right, so B or none would be
Yep.
your thoughts.
I guess what protect,
What-
I mean, Ron, what protects us from a lawsuit? That's basically what it boils down to.
Yeah.
If you got a policy that you don't have to, and you don't follow.
No, flip it. That's.
I mean, that's, I mean, I'm
reality.
just being, that's the reality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
We have that base relatively covered. Quite well.
You have a policy that you don't follow that is required, that is not required, but you have a policy that you don't follow that is not required, and then you don't follow that policy, then you're probably in a little more trouble, I would think, than not
So
having a
less is
policy at all.
better.
Correct.
Yes.
I've heard you say that several times.
He just wrote that to me last week.
Usually you say it in a
I want to get him a t-shirt.
Okay. All right, are we good with none then on that?
Okay.
Okay. Let's do that.
There's another option in the middle of page 3 that you can include and athletic activity sponsors if you want. I'm not sure what athletic activity sponsors. I guess we have a club or something.
yeah, the way this, yes. Because I'm reading, kind of like we do have it because we are going to have this for 5 through 12. 5th and 6th grade does have some intramural. I know that volleyball was intramural when you don't have other. I don't know if there's some other sports that just. I think swimming at this point, because it's in the spring, is just inter. They're not like competing against other schools. So at the 5th and 6th grade level,
The old Hub HD leagues.
what's that?
The old Hub HD football leagues. Internal.
I mean,
Gotcha.
Those were internal football, junior football leagues.
Right. So if we had something like that, that's my guess.
Should be good to add or leave in. Or add the
So those people,
activity sponsors, you know,
Okay.
they don't necessarily define
I would
this.
say.
okay. And then the last page with full writing, there are 2 options there. I would think that that we would report those things. Absolutely, we would report them. I think we're required to report if somebody, and we have to report licensure if they've done something that they naughty that they shouldn't do. We have to report that to the state by statute.
So any particular thoughts on which of those we're wanting to?
Just make sure the administration understands. I understand the need to report to law enforcement, but I don't quite understand the need to report to the Indiana High School Athletic Association.
So that's kind of superfluous in your thoughts.
I guess it prevents being rehired at another location. I mean, that's,
But by Indiana statute, they you have to contact the old school. But once again, only if you know that
and what you're being told.
employees worked at that school before. or that any employer. So if we were to hire any person, we have to contact their last place of employment. But sometimes they don't tell you what their last place of employment is. So,
I mean, again, I don't know that. I don't think it doesn't say we have to choose one of those options. I mean, if the first one's covered, because if they're different, that talks about convicted. The other says suspected. Or, I mean, if we have already governed to do certain things, that would have precedent, correct, Ron?
I don't think it's a requirement. I mean, it's just these were recommended. So that's the way I read it.
And I think what I hear Mr. Weber saying is that if there's a conviction or a crime, there's other mechanisms and other
That are going to be implemented, yeah.
Yes, protocols. Yeah.
As it relates more to licensure than anything. If you have an unlicensed lay volunteer.
right. And it does say it's a suspected misconduct and not a proven misconduct. So maybe that's why that is written as it is.
So are we good not requiring those reports in our policy? Is that what I'm hearing? Again, the idea being that by default we would be.
Yeah, we have other mechanisms. I mean, if for example, there's a report that said coach was inappropriate, by law within 24 hours as a school entity. After such investigation, more than likely, well, one of two things happen. Either we investigate and we find out, okay, you know what, this is frivolous, it's not substantiated, or we contact DCS. But what our rule of thumb has always been, if we even have to ponder over such a question, we'll call
It's not
DCS.
that call.
And then they can make decisions, screen it or screen it out. And once that ball gets moving,
I'm good just not having it as part of the policy if you guys are. All right.
I'll edit that one and have it ready, clean version for the next board.
Thank you so much. All right, next policy is notice of meetings, which is 0164. On this one.
And this also is a legislative update. Actually, we're into September legislative updates now from last September, so we're catching up. Although we've got a few new ones, and I think a lot of this is technical correctness, and so they've updated the citations of the statutes. Looks like they threw in that.
page 1.
Yeah, there's some blanks down there. So they should probably contact the executive assistant. And I'll give her cell number.
I thought that's where you
Ouch.
It's okay, you were here, ouch, in a minute, because he's going to kick
It's
it.
gonna kick And then that phone number, I will give just the main switchboard phone number that they can reach them there, 973-3300.
It does include fax. Does anyone use fax anymore? Like, is that something? Yeah.
FACS?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that just seems kind of antiquated in my opinion. But okay. We're still using it.
All right. I will edit that and get a clean copy for the next board meeting.
All right. Next we have meeting of the board defined 0164.4.
And this one is to be rescinded because I think the information is included in another one.
Do you know which other one? Is it in?
Let me look at. Let me see if I can find that information for you.
Well, I mean, the next one we're going to be looking at is 0165 board meetings.
So I'm sure it's included in there.
Okay.
Yeah, meeting defined. So I'm sure that's where it is. So you good for resending this one once the other one gets approved? Yes. Okay. So we will not bring this until we do the final reading of the other one.
Okay, so then moving on then to 0165 board meetings. And it does, I mean, like, the first part at least mirrors what we had in 0164.4. But then this whole section is kind of missing, or I'm not seeing it. So, or yeah, where is that? Is it just under, like, it's just subtitled then under regular meetings and formatted differently? Sorry, Stacey, are you following me?
Not at all.
No, that's all right. So on, yeah, these two, zero, okay.
The rescinded one?
Yes, the rescinded one and the one we're currently on, board meetings. The top portion is identical.
Correct, down
Down
to
to
H.
H, yes. And then 0165 moves into a subtitle regular meetings and says the board shall hold a meeting on a date and time and place determined annually by resolution of the board, and that's where it gets different.
I think it just lists the different types of meetings that the board could have.
Okay.
And kind of spells them out. You can see it's much more lengthy than the
Right.
other one was. So I think it just kind of breaks those out.
Okay.
I think that's
So this is just more fleshed out than
yeah.
the rescinded ones. Okay. Comments or thoughts on what we want to do with this one? Are we wanting to modify any of it?
Yes.
Okay.
So in the emergency meetings, it strikes I don't quite know what they're doing. It strikes any member of the board or the superintendent. I think I don't quite understand. And then it says the president or the superintendent may call an emergency session. I think it should be any member of the board, because if the president is not or superintendent is not available, I think it needs to say any member of the board or the superintendent may call the emergency session.
Okay, so not take that out then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's written weird.
It's really poorly worded. And it doesn't make sense. No formal notice to the board, because I don't know what formal notice means. Typically, the statute speaking reverse just says the media has to be provided the same notice that the board is provided. Neola's policy making is a head scratcher for me.
So I would just replace president with any member of the board or the superintendent. I think would be the cleanest.
And then what do we want to do with employees and students being able to call sessions? I guess I don't understand why that would ever be applicable.
Any member.
I think that's part of the imminent threat.
Yeah.
Welfare.
The employee.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I think you take out the last sentence there. No formal notice to board members. You can at least revise it.
So
Okay.
you think take out no formal notice to board members of any emergency meeting shall be required?
Yeah, I would go with the statute, which basically says that such notice as the board receives of the emergency meeting that shall also be given in similar format to the press and media that has requested. And you got to remember, you don't have to give notice to people that have requested.
Are we good with that? John?
To remove the no formal.
Right.
Yeah.
I think reword it. I think we need to have a notice language in there. If you would like, I could get something together there.
That'd be great. Ron, if you could either email that to me and I'll put that in there. And then any member of the board or the superintendent may call I've got that in there as well. We can go back to regular meetings. There's an option there. And I'll tell you, so we have changed the location of board meetings before. One time, several years ago, we had a dress code issue, and I don't know, there's about 1,000 people trying to get in this tiny room, so we moved it over to the cafeteria. I'm not sure we were allowed to do that, but that's what we did. But if we do have to move it because we anticipate something more, then I think that having that option that we can change it would be a good thing.
I think we've had to exercise that.
When we made the announcement of the new superintendent, we did that.
And I think there were a few other times that
Yeah.
we shifted to.
So if you think that option would be good, we can include that.
Do you think that's typically been done by the executive committee rather than the board? I don't know. I mean, I think the board's included, but I think where the meeting's held and when it's held, that's all kind of agenda meeting stuff. So I don't think the board needs to take action. I think the executive, I guess I would just say, I would just add executive committee of the board. I guess, I don't know if it really matters.
Well, do they represent the, well, I guess they really, do they represent the board or do they, I don't know.
I think so, yeah.
Because they make the agenda.
Right.
Ron, if we didn't mark it, do we still have the option to make a change as long as the notice is done correctly?
I think so. I mean, notice.
So if we didn't mark it at all, that would, if we still.
Yeah, if you went back to 164, I think it reiterates what the law says.
Okay.
So, the notice requirements of the open door law do not apply to a board meeting convened to address such an emergency. But news media, which have requested notice of meeting, shall be given the same notices as given board members without charge. And the public shall be notified by posting a copy of the notice at the administrative office.
Okay. So we don't have to include that
And
one.
that's in 164.
Okay. Thank you for going back to that.
Does this give us the flexibility also just to decide, like we've through the years talked about maybe going to the schoolhouses, thank you, Tyler, right? And having a board meeting there. So would we be abiding by our policy if we chose to do that? Does that make sense? Because I guess the way I'm reading it is the board shall hold a meeting on a date and a time and a place determined annually by resolution. That kind of feels like it's locking us into a certain.
I think that's just there to save you money, so that you don't have to notify everyone, either in a notice or a legal publication. If you publish that annual notice, the only time you notify is when you do something additionally or at variance with it, which would be a special meeting or changing the location.
So you're not interpreting this as being restrictive, though, in that way?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's what it's intended.
Okay. Because, yeah, as it's been mentioned, we've several times headed over to Civic.
And again, the standard is almost like how you can argue with the determination that it's in the best interest of the board. When the board decides that's what they want to do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Stacy, are there other portions of this policy?
Yes, under location of the meetings, it has who do you want to give authority to, the superintendent, the board president, or both of them? Just check them both. That seems reasonable to me.
Michael, any thoughts?
That'd be my preference too.
Both. Okay, I'm good with that. All right.
And then under member participation in meetings through electronic means of communication, and then it gives you some options there.
We got a policy drafted on that.
Mm-hmm.
For bylaw. Although Stacy, I was trying to find that the other night at the board meeting because I thought it might come relevant.
Because I was virtual?
Yeah, because you were virtual, that was it. And the issue was whether that contract that had to do with multiple contracts with the chamber for
Work-based learning.
Yeah, work-based learning was an obligation that was precluded. Long story short, I know we created the policy, but I didn't see it in the online access to our policies. I think it's 160 something 0.5, 64.5 maybe. I don't know. We'll go into that. But the policy about you electronic participation of the board members. I know it's been adopted. I remember that. I just adopted it, I think.
Yeah, don't we already have a policy that does that? Isn't it 3 meetings you have to?
It's probably this.
Because it's an update.
It was prior to Neola, so I don't know where it ended up, like with the transition.
There's in bylaws 160,
It was okay. 164.5 possibly.
possibly 164.55.
That would
Let
make
me-
sense if this was 0.4, right? And it would be attached to that.
So
I'm trying to bring up the retired policies.
Okay.
Take them a little bit to run through them.
but in their state statute on all this run
But you have options
with the statute.
with the statute to make it more restrictive than the statute. And I think we went through some of those, like
We did.
limiting the number of times a board member can be absent, or can attend
Yeah.
electronically, absent, then illness, military service, some
So
of
we-
the exceptions.
So is that in the old version of this policy, or is that in the bylaw? Is that
In the
what it-
bylaw that I thought, I mean, I've got a copy of it on my computer, but I don't have, when I tried to go online and get it, I didn't see it.
Here, I've got it right here. 166, it's the old 167.6. Do you want me to print this part up for you, Ron?
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I may
More
have
sent.
thought it was going to be that.
Maybe it's copies down here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You can't because you'll have to have. I don't know how to force it through without mine. Oops, I just sent it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Let's drop down to.
So what was the reason why it was determined that I wasn't able to?
And I don't think it's discrimination paid.
Okay.
I couldn't tell if you lost contact or.
No, it was the votes were being taken without my being asked or my. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, and although it should have been taken by roll call.
Right. I think I talked to Kim afterwards. It sounds like she just didn't know how that worked. So obviously.
And again, I think where the issue that I felt the chair expression, even though the ISBA says that wasn't intended, I sponsored that today. They viewed it as an absolute prohibition from a member participating in any aspect of the meeting, like a subject budget up for adoption or anything. And I don't think that's required reading of that statute, and ISBA agrees that it's not, but that's.
Where are my options?
To the extent those legislators might have been lobbied to back, and then we got back to it. So I don't know what she's going to do. Be interesting to see what her general attitude.
And the restriction though on the voting is budgetary. We're not allowed to do.
Create contractual obligations.
Okay.
That's what I was
That
trying to.
right.
The wording of that's what I
Base.
couldn't remember off the top of my head, and I didn't go back after and check it.
Got it.
So
I
the
just
the bylaw says everything's 50%. So should we just make it 50% and pick that option? I mean, just a quick look at the bylaw. I don't know that.
So
What's-
option number 1.
what's that?
Reading through the bylaw on meetings, it talks about all the. I mean, there's a big paragraph, but it basically says that you can attend 50%, I think, electronically. Is that what you passed out, Cindy?
167.5
So,
or 167.6. Sorry.
Yeah, he's blasted windows. Not very flexible.
So yeah, it limits it to three electronic.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. 67.6. So it's page 5.
It's just
There it is.
the part we want is the next page.
Oh, number 6. The
Page
last
6.
3.
You got page 6.
No, I didn't. It says adopt a budget, make a reduction in personnel, initiate referendum, impose an increase a fee. It's on the overhead now. Increase the board's power of eminent domain, or establish, raise, or renew a tax. There you go.
Impose or increase the fee. Yeah, I think you'd have been able to see that.
Okay. All right. Okay. No, I think it was just a lack of understanding how that works. So on Kim's part, I think that was what happened there. Okay. So are we looking at the 50%? Is that where we want to land? It's for option 1.
I think you only have 2 here. No more than 2 members may participate by electronic.
We do. So
Where's that?
right here.
It's the third paragraph.
More than 2. Yeah. And at least 4 have to be physically present.
At least 4 have to be physically present.
Mm-hmm.
You could have 3 and 4 could still be physically present.
Mm-hmm.
So
you may put 3 in there.
pleasure of the board.
Okay.
Wait, Stacy, where did you put 3?
Under option, well, if you pick option 1, we can put it there. I don't know which option you want though.
Where are
Right here. So we currently have 2 on our bylaws. Are we wanting to keep that for option 1, or are we wanting to increase it to 3? As an example, I had said that I was going to be like this last board meeting. I knew that I was going to be. Aaron had said he was possibly going to be, and then I think Austin was maybe even
He was here.
iffy at that point.
At one time.
So I mean, that was just last week. So I guess, and if that's the case, are we good with that?
recognizing that before you can have any of them be 1, 2, or 3 board members participate electronically, you have to have at least 4 physically present in the situs of the regular situs of the meeting. So if you have 4 here, then you have 3 that are available electronically. I don't see
why you would
Why not?
pick one off.
why you'd arbitrarily say, you should have been one of the first 2 to ask.
That was going to be my follow-up. How do we determine then? Is it first come, first serve? We only have virtual for 2 of you.
So as long as we have 4 physically here.
I put 3 and 3 there.
Okay.
Written out
Yeah,
3 and then
we have to have 4,
We have to have 4 physical.
Yeah.
regardless of the number you're
Right.
allowing for.
So that's
Okay. All right. So we're good changing the bylaws to reflect 3, and then choosing option 1 and saying it's limited to 3.
I do think, I don't know what our tech team can do, but it'd be nice if we maybe had just a standard size monitor kind of in the corner rather than the board member.
You don't like the max headroom?
I very much
The big, huge screens.
Zero our budget to purchase. Okay.
I don't know. Cheerleaders. I mean, and no offense to Nicole, but if you remember when Aaron was on the pull down a couple times, I think it'd be more. It'd look nice. It'd look better.
It's intimidating to be all blown up there, because you're seeing yourself the whole time.
Oh, that's right. The way in which the live stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's just like great.
Put a smaller TV screen.
Something.
If we had presentations or stuff, they could still. I mean,
I believe these are still operational with projectors, and so I believe we can. We'll talk with Mr. Hazelbaker.
Whatever. I mean, I wouldn't spend a lot of time or energy, but if it could be done, it seems like I mean, it does change the kind of the
Yeah.
the
Great
visual.
thought, John. All right. Any other thoughts on either the bylaw or?
They give us a couple more options,
Okay.
or another. Oh, we won't do option 2 then, right? We picked option 1.
We picked option 1,
Gotcha.
but
Okay.
limited it to 3 board members.
Yep.
Which
Got it.
we can't get more than that and have 4 present. So that's our max.
And then the next page, about halfway through, it's if you're not going to be here, they want. Do you want that? I mean, I don't think you have to. A time frame, or can you call an hour ahead and say, "Hey, I won't be here. Can you hook me up electronically?" You don't have to. I don't think you. Well, I guess it does tell you have to.
That's not a legal requirement. That's just a board.
So if you want, we could take that out.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah. If you don't have 4 here because there's 3 that were going to attend virtually and 1 suddenly had an absence, then
So I can put a comma after superintendent, take out no less than, and then the blanks, and then before the board meeting, so that arrangements can be made. And
So you're going to say notify the board president and superintendent no less than.
Or I would take
just,
that out.
Just note. Yeah, I was going to say. I don't think you're going to say.
And then just say before the meeting, so that arrangements can be made for the board member participation by electronic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Provide more elastic.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put and or the superintendent? So that way, if you can't get a hold of the board president,
It's fine.
okay.
I do think, I mean, it is important though, like that there is some time buffer because I think that's what threw Kim off, was she wasn't thinking, I mean, yeah, I think she was saying, Ron, what do we do? Is this legal? So I think that that's important for the president who's about to run a meeting,
Right.
to have a little bit of time to, know what.
And I would say
is
on the
legal.
operational side, the superintendent needs time too, because setting up that meeting virtually isn't a 1 minute and it's done.
Right.
So a little bit, and that's where if you say and or what happens if the president gets busy and doesn't let the superintendent know until right before the meeting starts, we won't be ready.
Right.
On the
Well,
back.
good days, good hours. I mean, you can.
I don't want to restrict us, but I feel like,
Just
as
be
a
reasonable.
team.
Yeah, if it doesn't,
Just be reasonable.
if you call an hour ahead, it's not going to get done.
Right.
So, and if that board member is going to yell at IT, then I would assume the other 6 board members can say,
Yeah.
Maybe give them more than 60 minutes.
Right.
Now, is 2 hours enough? Maybe. I mean, that's a little. But you would
We
expect
do what we can.
the morning
Within
would be
24
reasonable,
hours.
preferably 24 hours.
Yeah.
Just keep it simple.
July 1, you have to have the tech. If you're going to meet in a room that has instant capability, you're going to have the technology in place to allow interactive streamline, live real-time streamlining. So the technology had better be here.
Should be.
But yeah, to your point, I mean, it is just, it's best if we can give a heads up, but don't lock it in policy. Okay.
We're currently set and ready for July 1. I think with this, it's just a matter of it's an emergency situation on the day of. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
We'll work hard, even if it's 25 minutes prior. We'll get
No, Alex did I had contacted him like a month or 2 in advance and he sent me the link right away. Cindy and I were in communication. She said, log in 15 minutes prior, everything on IT tech.
You were the first one in attendance today.
Yeah, I know. IT did their job. All right. Anything else on board meetings policy?
I'll have that cleaned up for the next board meeting.
Awesome. Okay, next we're looking at
Last one.
Council 0172.
And these are, this is an update and it's just technical correction. I think it cross-references the responsibilities of the superintendent and then just puts a new Indiana code in there and then just changes, moves the shall from before also to after also.
The council also shall. Why was that change made?
It's me. The Marion committee,
Okay,
the old committee.
then I wouldn't have caught that.
All right, let me clean that up for you.
Error, but
Sure.
all right.
So we'll have 4 policies then coming to the board next meeting.
Okay.
New
John,
ones.
anything
I
on
don't know if
legal
there's others
counsel
today.
to?
We still have notes.
No. All right. Anything else that we need to be addressing?
One of the things that we were able to prior to start the meeting was the categories.
Yes.
I also have, bear with me getting 1 minute. I know that Mr. Pritchard is extremely impressed. I believe this is the administrative guideline that was being questioned regarding.
I didn't count.
Oh.
And Mr. Scalf, I'm going to ask that you walk through those categories. I think this is the guideline, is that correct?
Policy too, please.
Yes. The policy.
Just some of it's in the policy.
6510.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's 7510 under the new numbers.
Oh, okay, yes, that's right, because it was, that's wellness, let me try 65.
The use of school facilities. And I'm under the policy manual.
There it is. It's still 651001.
Oh, I said that.
The retired ones.
You know what? I am still in the retirement because I simply, yeah. So let me go active. Yeah, so
Still probably like 70.
So I guess as Dr. Wright gets that pulled up, just facility use, the policy is pretty specific on how we can allow use of the facilities and then the prioritizations that have to be made. It does specify for-profit versus not-for-profit, and that is how the fee schedule has been established when the board approved it many years ago. So that is your group A, and group B is for-profit versus not-for-profit. And that is why everything is specified the way that it is.
So where is that listed at?
I'm sorry.
Where is it specified for how it's determined in A, B, or
So
C?
for-profit, it specifies there, and then not-for-profit. So for-profit requesting use shall submit the cost-benefit analysis. So that's why in the form we ask if they're charging, how much they're charging, what the expected revenues are. There is a lot to that form that meets the requirements of this.
I still don't see where it says it defines the groups.
It does. It specifies you have to have a for-profit and a not-for-profit. As we did the fees under the approval by the board of the fee schedule, there's a for-profit group A and group B is a not-for-profit.
So where does it say that?
It doesn't say group A and group B. We did that so that it could be easily defined on the form. We can add that to the policy.
On the form
Correct.
itself.
It's for the form so that they can see group A is for-profit, group B,
Okay,
and that's
so it's not
just
in the
simple
policy, but
organizational.
it's on the facilities usage form.
Correct.
Is where Mr. Weber can find out such language as far as what
So that it's
Group
easy
A
to understand.
organization, RCS school-related groups or partnerships, no charge for facility use.
Okay, so
Group
let me
B,
get,
civic and community non-for-profit within
okay, so
RCS
then group
district,
C is commercial.
and then group C, commercial.
That's
So where is that?
for-profit.
Huh?
For-profit is commercial. That is specified up here.
13.
So where it says
So the administrative guidelines, 13 pages long.
For-profit organizations. There's a section
Oh, you
for
got that
profit. The next section
It's
says not for
administrative
profit.
guideline.
And then we have RCS activities.
Mhm.
So that is why it doesn't say group A is. That's all on the form. It's not specified. Group A is in the policy. It's specified on the form for clarification purposes.
So to use an example, how does Richmond Premier, Wayne County Premier, which I would say would be a partnership group, become a group one organization?
Because they did not provide a not-for-profit form. You have to provide your tax exempt form in order to qualify, and that was not provided. So that is why they were considered a commercial form. You are not provided that information. They might be not-for-profit, but they didn't provide us with that record in order to verify that.
Was that communicated in
Yes,
any of
it
this?
was. Yes, it was.
That's the protocol we've used in the past for
Correct.
all other entities that have
Yeah.
wanted to use facilities.
Yeah.
And so again, to Mr. Weber's point, to his question, that was something that was reiterated, echoed, and requested numerously, not only with this particular entity, but I think there's also in the past, again, prior to my arrival, I think there was a few baseball. I recall there being
Yeah.
some question about
We asked for that. Yeah, we asked for that with forms so that we know whether they qualify as a commercial or not for profit. If they're not in our CSA,
So that's the
so
place
they
to-
have to do that,
Yeah.
and they provide the certificate of insurance. So you have to know that.
Is the form you're referencing, is it called permit for use of school
Yes,
property
it's
short,
linked on the facility.
short term? Okay, yeah.
The administrative guideline. They don't have
It's a
one.
link.
It's a link.
It's a link on the website. It's a Google form.
Yeah, this is just the administrative guideline.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I had that pulled up here.
Mhm.
Administrative guidelines.
Have you guys been on that form and filled it out?
Yes.
I'm just saying it's pretty archaic.
Yeah, they
It's
used to come
pretty-
through the
it's
building
pretty new
principal.
compared to the paper forms we used to
They
use.
used to come through the building principal, and then we would send it on. This is the way we used to do it. And
Yeah.
when I was in an administrative,
I mean, I
role
filled out
level,
the
then we
form.
would move it forward to the Kiernan Center to the AD, and then they would be the ones that would get it.
Up until 2 years ago, it was a carbon copy form so that all of the building, the departments, facilities, athletics could all get copies.
So this is where we're here. Is this it here?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so I think to Mr. Weber's question and to the point regarding partnership, because again, that's always the goal is to continue to extend partnerships throughout the community. I think even with the example of the Premier Soccer League, I think once we had gotten the insurance liability form, I may be saying that wrong, but I know that there was, I think at one point that was something that had been submitted. Because again, as we work through and develop and streamline and level set and find whatever will the board as far as to put this in motion to extend partnerships and make sure that we are being great stewards of the community when it comes to forming partnerships. Just making sure that we're also receiving such information as requested. That's, I think, was one of the challenges. It sounds like this one here now is that we couldn't categorically place them in their respective category because we had to receive.
We had to do just with the information provided. We had to provide what we could to get them going in the way that we knew based on the information that they provided us could be done. The one thing too to consider, and we have to think about partnerships in a very broad sense also, because there are athletic implications to partnerships at the high school level with IHSAA rules. So there are
Mr. Lee's investigating looking at that for us.
yeah, so we have to be very careful calling people partners that offer high school programming because it can create recruiting problems for us on the IHSAA level. So that's where we have, even though you might think of them as a partner, we may not be able to utilize it as a partnership. Typically, that has been something we avoid at the high school level when it's sports related. That's just an FYI. I mean,
Well, for example, in particular sports, and this is I use the term investigation. I should use the term homework. Mr. Lee's currently doing his homework because I think there was concern that the number of participants per school. I know that I can speak for basketball. When I was an athletics coach, no more than three. Used to be two, but then they increased it no more than three student athletes from any respective high school compete on the same.
Soccer's like 6 or 7. I forget now.
Yes.
And we've always been able to
stay
I
under.
mean, the league understands that.
Yes, no doubt about it. And I think to Mrs. Scout's point, I think the premise of the key as we extend partnerships with Richmond Junior Soccer, with is it Devil Dogs, the baseball, Diamond Dogs,
but
right?
they pay so that they don't have to worry about any of that.
Well, even as we move down the road, just making sure that we're communicating which forms are to be submitted and the expectations surrounding, because I think of the conversations that have been had for years, if I'm not mistaken, with regard to a few entities, we still, I think, we're not getting um, some of the necessary
All right.
forms.
Are there any other questions as far as further understanding or?
Oh yeah, I have a lot.
Go ahead.
So to me, this is all like a customer service. I mean, you guys, we just talked about marketing at the beginning.
Mhm.
There's no worse way to foil any marketing plan is to just have terrible experiences. And when you say a 21 roster soccer team only has 6 RCS students, what better way to show RCS to 15 new kids? I mean, it's really baffling. I mean, I go back to when Chad Bolzer was AD, and we put that $1 million turf field in. He's like, I want everybody and their brother on that field. That's a community investment. We want to use it, use it, use it, use it, use it. And it was a little frustrating, but I think his approach is that these are community assets paid for by property tax dollars. And it may be, it's my opinion that the best way to invite kids to RCS is to let them experience the facilities. And I think, and while technically, our role as trustees is to protect the corporation, and we empower you guys to do that. So yes, we need to make sure we are covered.
Yes.
But I think whenever there's leeway,
Mhm.
and I'm just one board member, but my thought is that we bend over backwards to facilitate, be it soccer or Hub Etchison still plays their championship game. I mean, they're not in RCS. We don't run that. I mean, there's just too many opportunities to not. I mean, that's how we market RCS. And so to say, well, they were told, I mean, okay, I guess, but obviously that didn't seem to ever work for months. And it in past practice would have said, I mean, 10 years ago, I had not, it wasn't called Premier League, but we had travel soccer teams with Centerville and Union County and Richmond, and we played on that field, and it didn't seem to be a big deal. And I don't think I ever filled out a single form. But was that a problem? Probably. But I mean, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about the groups and how it's, I mean, and maybe this goes to communication, but somehow I think we need the mindset that we need to work harder to get people to make it easier for our customers, our students, our families, our citizens to enjoy our facilities. And I know that takes time and effort. I'm not saying Mrs. Scalp and Mrs. Swafford can't. I mean, it weighs on their days, but I think when I look at experiences, why do you think people come here from Seton at high school? It's primarily athletics. I mean, some for academics, but Camus came here because he wanted to be a diver. I mean, and so I think we've got to somehow figure out how to streamline this. So yeah, I'm just soapboxing Nicole, but
No.
there it is.
I think one of the other, I'm sorry, Mrs. Stokes.
Do you are you seeing any specific opportunities or any suggestions for things that we could change in order to do that streamlining and making it easier for community members to get on our fields and in our facilities?
If I may contribute to that question as well, just add, because I recall Mr. Weber alluded to during one of our executive sessions that this has been a conversation that has been ongoing for some time with boards before you. And I recall Mr. Weber sharing during one of our last executive sessions that and I think even in the public meeting, I think, yeah, it was actually during the business meeting, that as a board come together just to arrive at some conclusions as to what the board would prefer to see when it comes to establishing partnerships, when it comes to setting rates of usage, fees, no fees, the whole kit and boom. So I'm not sure if we want to venture down that road today.
The last big decision was when we had talked about doing intramural activity. We were talking is at the or at the middle school level, extracurriculars, and it was decided. The board voted then that you had to be an RCS student to participate in RCS extracurriculars at the middle school level, and that was for a number of reasons. One being athletics. I remember our Larry came in and said, yeah, there's could be some semblance where if a coach is grooming a kid and the board's like, oh, freaked out. And so that was like a 4-3, I think, failed. But that's a very specific RCS. I think when we talk about these partner organizations, I think that's more of we used to have the swim club, what the swim works, I forget what waterworks was it called.
Yeah, they moved to Centerville.
And that was, anyone could sign up for that, but we, at one point, facilitated them at Giano. So yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. You should probably have the feeling of the entire board, not just myself.
So do we want to put that on our agenda for under?
Yeah, I don't know if either forward or if we want to discuss that this morning.
I think it would make sense to do that in a public meeting,
I think
like
personally,
coming up.
you need to have that in a public meeting to recognize the importance of each board member's ability to address that issue. That's just personally straight.
I can respect that. I think the only, if anything, could we receive guidance this morning, because we do, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Mrs. Schwaber and Scout, you all correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have an entity or two that would like to utilize our facilities and pay, or have been paying. I think there's just maybe, like, for example, I think one of the concerns we have is one of the entities is going to find out the other entity is not paying and they've been paying all along. And that's a counterbalance that right now we don't know which route to go. And so, do we suspend fees and reimburse for those?
Do we suspend use for a while till you figure? It could go either way. We could
Actually, I would much rather. I don't know about you guys. I would rather suspend fees than use.
Yeah,
because that is
my one concern
a marketing
is oftentimes we have to staff these requests.
Mm.
So what the fees typically are for the most part is reimbursement for the staff overtime in order to meet the needs of many
I think you
of
provided
these
numbers and some figures.
Yes.
There was an
And
email that I think had gone out.
20 grand, I think.
20
So,
grand.
in my opinion, this is our mistake for
Yes.
not being consistent and
And that's-
clear in our communication,
Yeah.
and so we pay for our mistake.
That's fine. We have been consistent in the operational side of what has happened. So that part, at least from your perspective, it has operated consistently for years and years. This is pre-me in operations. This is back, for as long as the system has been set up that people could use our facilities, we have used this method, and it has worked well. So from that consistency's perspective, it has been operational.
And this
But so just from here forward, we
Yeah.
don't want to create confusion for those using the facilities, those wanting to use the facilities, because we get a lot of requests that are hard to staff, and if we can't staff them, we can't always let people use it because.
So from that, again, Scout, to your point, I think, and as Mr. Stoltz alluded to, especially within the court of public opinion in the current, I think making sure that, hey, you know what, while we are as a board having dialogue as our board is arriving at particular conclusions for the time being, we will suspend fees. However, I think from my perspective, which would allow me to sleep better, and I think all of us sleep better, is just to make sure that those insurance liabilities and those coverages are, I think those forms have to be submitted. And it's just so that if a kid rolls an ankle or God forbid,
Right, it's not a free for all. It's we still
Yeah.
have to, yeah.
as the board
do things
is arriving.
correctly.
And so I guess, is that something that we should explore, reimbursing monies that have already been paid by those entities that have been using for the last year or this semester? For example, I think we have baseball little league that has been paying to use facilities. Should we reimburse those funds and share with them that for the remainder of the spring semester or for the remainder of the usage? I mean, I think maybe through next month or
It's through the summer.
through the summer. We're going to reimburse you your fee. We're going to reimburse your monies, and you can utilize the facilities at this point for free while our board is level setting.
We have a lot at Civic Hall as well right now.
So there's a lot
Civic
of
Hall
Civic Hall.
oh, yes. A lot of the public uses Civic
And
Hall.
if I'm not mistaken, now some of those, okay. And so I
So
think
we would need to do it
across the
for
board.
everyone if we were going to do it. I think that would only be appropriate.
And I think that's where to Mr.
Does, I mean, are there
I mean, are we-
situations where it does make sense and other situations where it doesn't?
I mean, athletic facilities and civic hall facilities is a totally different facility.
But
You
not to the music people.
I
You have to
I
be careful
know.
saying that.
I was in band myself. I get it, but still, it's a different facility.
Mhm.
Not
It's-
indoor. Tiernan would be like Civic Hall.
Mhm.
There,
Outdoor
that's
facilities, I understand where you're coming from.
so. That's where I'm getting at. Do we need to specifically say indoor facilities versus outdoor facilities, and then go that route?
I think that's a valid point. I think what Mr. Scow, and again, I don't want to put any words in your mouth. What I think I heard you say is, it still comes down to those costs that are associated with either indoor or outdoor facility when it comes to staffing, custodial,
Even
maintenance of the fields.
the
Is it, do I have it accurately? And I haven't had a chance to look in some time. Is it still, I know this is a full football game, Friday. Is it still $5,000 utility cost to run those lights on Friday nights?
I don't know if it's 5,000, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
The bulbs themselves are hundreds of dollars.
And so nevertheless, I think that's whatever provides our board the time that it needs to level set and establish, to Mr. Eloriano's point, a difference between indoor versus interior versus exterior facility usage. The categories, as Mr. Weber was alluding to, truncate, revise, as well as making the process user friendly.
I mean, I'm just thinking this out loud from a business standpoint. So if I was to understand what the costs were associated for outdoor facility usage, what would that cost look like from the operation standpoint, and what would the cost look like from an indoor facility standpoint? How much we have to staff and how much we have to staff for outdoor facilities. I mean, if I get a specific, I mean, I didn't know the bulbs cost $100. I mean, that to me is kind of a nightmare. We need to update our lights, from a board standpoint. I mean, there's a lot of.
We updated them a couple years.
Okay, even still then. I mean, geez.
I think so. First off, I mean, I think obviously abuse. This is a privilege. So if we have a certain organization that leaves things tattered or destroys things, they lose that privilege. Okay, I think you all are. I think, yeah, in refunding, I think could be problematic. I tend to lean on moving forward, maybe not charging, and if they're upset with us.
Well, I guess I thought it was just, I mean, I've only heard about Premier Soccer. Have you guys heard of others that are upset currently?
No, I'd have to think.
I have to get into it.
Because I mean,
but I
I
think
don't know that I want to stir a pot
I
with
think, yeah, but
everybody.
I think that's I mean, I think maybe we need another category. I mean, I think we need some sort of means testing. I mean, obviously, we spent $20,000 of cash on custodial and overhead or whatever. I think you can make a pretty clear argument that's an investment, and our payback is greater than 20. We get 3 kids, we're in the green.
Maybe
So,
if you could directly.
but so I think there's some, but I think somehow maybe we need the means test, and I don't know. I'd have to think on that a lot more because Premier Soccer has no money. Richmond Symphony has lots of, or comparatively, lots of money. They both provide value to RCS. So I have to give it a lot more thought, I guess.
Outdoor facilities can include alumni wanting to have their class reunions,
which have no money, which aren't a 501c3. But our policy says.
But they have money. I mean, they have the ability to pay.
They have the ability.
They wanted to.
But they're not. It's not a formal organization. So
No,
are they passing the hat?
But you'll be getting requests.
They pay for the custodial.
I was going to say we just had that we
if they
paid.
need it. So
It's what
and the
58%.
I do want to just advocate a little bit for the custodial and the maintenance staff that have to work this. Because one thing that we have to remember is RCS activities come first, and there are a lot of them. And so in addition to their routine overtime required for games, for activities like academic bowls, for all of that setup, that cleanup, that all of those things, they're doing events for people that are not RCS in addition to that. So that overtime is even more time away from their families. And from the perspective of if we allow freedom for entities to utilize our facilities, staffing could be a concern because they are tired. And they work during the winter months when we have wrestling and basketball and swim and a lot of sports going at once.
Well, could
They
approval
will
be
work
contingent
20 hours a
on
day
whether or not we're able to meet the staffing needs?
We absolutely, and that's one thing that I had someone wanting to use a facility on Easter, but I couldn't get anyone to work it because it was Easter. And so I had to tell them no. Well, he was very unkind to me and said some very unpleasant things, but I couldn't get the help. So we have to say no to those things. He will tell you I won't work with him. That has nothing to do with it. We couldn't get staffed. So that's where we need to just think through it all when we think about this, because it is a big undertaking when we make changes like this, because it affects a lot. I think that the sheet that I sent had over 800 requests in just a year and a half. So we get a lot of things, both RCS and non-RCS, and this is a big undertaking that impacts a lot of things. So as you're evaluating, be sure you're just thinking through all those impacts, because that's exactly right, Nicole. If we can't staff it, then nobody can get upset because we can't staff it. It just is the way that it has to be.
All right, board, what do we want to do with this? Are we wanting to put it on the agenda for next Wednesday and discuss it collectively? And in the meantime, what? What are you guys looking at?
I think we need another work session, maybe like this, where we just sit down with the entire board and talk.
Yeah, we got to have a board. We got to have all of the board.
We need to look at the policy. We need to study the spreadsheet. I mean, I think to say it's going to be on the next board meeting is not. I mean, there's just it just is, and I'm not saying we make any major changes, but just even to hone what we have.
Okay.
I think we need to know. I don't think we as the board know exactly what's going on. And so we need to kind of have a better sense of how the process works. How it affects us. Like, Moore's Yard used with Tiernan. It's on the list I saw
What
for
was that?
baseball
Use
practice.
McBride.
Well, it said Tiernan, I think.
They used it once when the weather was bad, but they used McBride.
What was that?
McBride Tiernan is a slash in form, so it's
So, I mean,
Center practices, yeah.
Oh, okay.
so just, I mean, kind of, I think, I
that's
need
the
to
Diamond Dogs.
look at the kind of see who's using our facilities, who we think will be using them.
I mean, when I look at the spreadsheet, it's very.
It's like 90% RCS, it seems.
I realize I'm getting older, but I know.
Oh, there you go.
But at the same time, though, when I just would like just to be Civic Hall, Richmond High School. I mean,
And maybe if it's a manpower thing, maybe we contract with Manpower for Easter. And if they want to pay $1,000 in custodial services and have Manpower come do that, so be it. I mean, I'm not saying we should. I'm just saying maybe that's a different option.
I mean, that's extra work for us to accommodate. I mean,
Security wise, we have to teach them about all of our protocols and make sure that they follow them. They don't know our facilities if an emergency happens, and so we still have to come in if
right.
something happens. So but it's an option. But then we're charging people for the amount that they want. I mean, our staff's cheaper than that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, if somebody's desperate, and I mean, I don't know, maybe I mean, yeah, that would be a premium service, if you will.
Right.
And to Mr. Weber's point, I mean, and as this will be fleshed out with the board, I think, going back to what our administrative team has been working to uphold is what's currently in place. And some of those things I know have become a little convoluted and complex. But in the end, still just trying to put in motion what we currently have in front of us and the tools that we have to. And so with that, what I'm hearing is
I don't mean to create extra work here. Just looking at that Google sheet, and I'm just thinking out loud here, is I would like more specifics on that and more of a classification of what's being used at the Tiernan Center, done. What's being used at Civic Hall, done. And I want those in a more, because when you go through
want
that
me to sort this is
Yes.
what you want for you. You want
Exactly.
me to take this and just sort it for you by building.
sorted by building, because I want to know exactly which use, is being used. That would definitely.
The other,
I know
as
what
we're talking about this, I just
Sort
I
of
want
column D.
I just want us to always remember that our primary job is school. And everything that we do takes away from that, takes resources away
That's right.
from that. So just as we're having this conversation, I do want to remember that because we haven't brought that up yet today, and we
that's right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Oh, see?
There's all
Done and done.
except.
There is Dennis. There's Crestdale, Fairview, Everett, 9 yards. So it's all right there. So D, right select, sort A to Z. It's the same thing in Word when you want to sort categories in Word. By the way, Mr. Pritchard, I know you're impressed, sir.
I'm keeping track right.
Are you pleased? I hope you're tallying over there, buddy. Yes.
You're right. Learn to sort.
And hey, don't sleep on the VV. Huh?
I know. No, I
turn
marked
the damn
that down
TV
too
on.
twice. Yeah. Toggling through tabs. You toggle through tabs.
All right, so we're at a point where we're thinking we'd like to do a deep dive into this during a work session. Is that kind of what we're landing on? Okay. All right, so we'll need to schedule that. And then Dr. Wright's asking in the meantime what to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Personally, I would like to just continue as we are doing and not rock too many boats. Again, I did say, if I'm going to lead more towards the reimbursement, if that's where we land on things, but I also don't want to just start cutting checks, dispersing a whole bunch of money right now, but again, that's my thought. Are you guys good with kind of
I think you
staying
just forward on
where we are?
I think a concern I would have would be particularly if you get involved in the agency entities that have used that may not have this organizational structure that you'd like to see in place. Well, where's that check going to go? Is it going to like the guy that shows up?
Mhm. Right. Yeah.
right.
Well, thanks.
Individual and
Okay. Does that give you enough?
I think it does. I think it does, and for what it is that we have remaining, which I think is through July, I still think that, and we can handle it case by case maybe. If the other entities approach and say, hey, what's this I'm hearing about folks getting away with fees and I've been paying, maybe reimburse just that entity
Again, yes.
we will, and work on an
But-
individual basis, because just
But
trying
we've
to
got to build
create that
towards
equity.
consistency,
Yes.
as well as, again, my other primary concern is communication, where
Yes.
everybody
Yeah.
understands, as much as we've tried, and I know sometimes it is their version of what was said or communicated, but as much as we can.
I think I would stay status quo. I mean, what I would envision is maybe a refined policy, but maybe I'd like to dig into those groups and maybe add a group or two even that more clearly defined, you know, Group A is a nonprofit organization that has basically limited structure, or however we might say it. Ron might have to help us. Basically doesn't have any money. So we tend to do those for free. Group B is similar, but maybe is like a Boys and Girls Club, different level of nonprofit, and I think maybe that's where some therapy, so that to use the bad example, I guess the Richmond Premier, I mean they can still having to provide the service. I don't know.
How many of our gyms are used for?
I'm sorry, what?
How many of our gymnasiums are used for practices for like grade Y teams, basketball teams?
Well, all the time, but it's not just why. I mean, we have people rent them for their own little team practices or travel basketball or like
personal
if
trainer.
they do, personal like
Tennis
lessons, or if
Ben
we
Lake's
have
doing
Dirt
a
Road
session
League
this summer.
or the Y or Boys and Girls Club. Like we have
Didn't
people,
have anything to do with
they're
us.
used all the
I
time,
could tell.
especially in the winter
Other than
months
that,
when
he's a
basketball's
coach.
in season. The other consideration that if we're going to talk about redefining groups, when we do RFPs, we have to ask for their financials for their last year. Are we going to get that deep? Because how will we know they don't have any money? Anybody can tell us we don't have any money. So I think as we think about this, we're going to have to think about mindfulness and management of it, and what's going to be reasonable, I guess, is maybe the word, that as we continue the conversation.
Yeah, which will be
let's just
fleshed
think
out
about
in
it.
another
Yeah.
work
Say
session.
we define, your sport activities. It's not, they all fit category, don't think. I mean, yeah, free Richmond tennis cap by head coach Ben Lake every weekday in June, 2 sessions, Richmond High School tennis court. Or is he paying?
If that is for
Is that
the
a summer
team, no.
It says nothing.
If it is for lessons, he will pay. He has paid in the past.
It doesn't say it. It just says free camp. I mean, I
It
think
might
it's
be our
fine,
athletic camp. I don't know about that
but
one yet.
we didn't approve it. I don't believe. I mean, you say I don't have a problem with it, but this obviously is
I haven't seen that, so I can't
something we should address, or it should be somewhere.
Because
I
the
don't know.
tennis camp
He's
is
our coach, but he's not an employee, other than a coach employee. He's a late coach,
typically the tennis coaches that offer lessons have paid in the past.
but it's not lessons. It's,
Camp.
it's every weekday in June. So I mean, it just
Those are the things I've been in another work session.
In a work session.
We're able to flesh out
All right.
and really get, because I think that's the other thing that Mr. Weber had alluded to. And I think Mr. Scalf, I think you, with just use the example of Premier Soccer, and I think Mr. Scalf, I heard you reference a minute ago, maybe some misunderstanding with a different group, or if a group was to, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was mentioned that of no relation. Coach Wright, is that right? With soccer.
Ian, right?
Yeah, I think like that of, I want to mention another name that I recall, it used to be taboo when I first came in, the Chip Belange. I think he used to come to baseball fields and utilize. I think that historically there's been a few actors and actresses that have at times, but I think the clarity that will arrive at and come to the conclusion on is going to be able to lay it all out. Here it is. But for the time being, yes, Mr. Stoltz,
Yeah,
to
so
answer your
we have
question.
an agenda
Yeah.
meeting on Thursday. I think we could nail down a work session date, make sure that everyone's good with that. In the meantime, proceed as we have been doing. Yeah.
Individual basis.
Yep.
Case by case basis. Yeah.
Anything else? And if not, we can end on time.
Okay.
1 minute spare. All right. Thank you all.
You all, thank you.